Brian Monken, and that is Acting Director of the Illinois State Police.
That's correct.
I want to make sure I know exactly what we're talking about in terms of the cuts that have been talked about. Do I have right 500 fewer positions?
Yeah, right now what we're looking at is 464 sworn officer layoffs in the process. That is actually going to be combined with the impact of 100 troopers that we project to retire over the course of this year, and 30 additional officers that are being sent to the Illinois Gaming Board to support statewide video poker and the 10th casino license.
So that's the laying off of people that already have jobs, not attrition. That's undoing people. That's firing people.
That's exactly correct. It's actual layoffs, not attrition. That's in addition to our attrition.
So you talked about it being more of a reactive force. Can you say what the priorities would be of this leaner or emaciated state police force?
Yeah, we really have to function on and focus on our core competencies, what we're here to do, which is really kind of that highway patrol function, that general patrol function in the area, and then also our investigative function that we have. We would really need to focus on those fundamental core principles of the state police and really ramp back a lot of the specialty units that we have throughout the state that do have a great amount of value, but don't come to the same level as our core commitment to the state.
You know, when we think about the state police, as you say, it's the highway and they're running radar and they're in my rearview mirror.
Sure.
And not mine, his probably, but
right.
And we like to say there's a lot more to the state police than that. And what you're saying is you're cutting back a lot more to it than that. It'll be more
Absolutely.
Just the guy in the mirror.
Absolutely. A lot of our additional functions that we perform, whether it's the statewide terrorism and intelligence center or critical incident response command, which is our tactical teams that are used for high-risk situations throughout the state, our motorcycle enforcement bureau that also works on the highways. There's a lot of things out there that we do that have a great deal of value to the agency and the people of Illinois, but that we won't be able to maintain.
You know, I'm wondering how much of this is supposed to frankly scare people into either approving a tax increase or change the priorities.
Well, I can't really make the judgment on what the purposes are. What I have to do is make the terrible choice of trying to figure out where those cuts would have to come and how we can still function as an agency. At the end of the day, what's most important is what we do every day, which is ensure the public safety of the residents of Illinois. And that's what we have to continue to do regardless of what cuts come down the pipeline.
You talked about your confirmation process and how you've been acting director. What progress do you think you've made in earning the trust of your men and women and of the people of Illinois?
Well, I think something that certainly helps is the fact that I've been in this capacity now for 12 months, and I think during that time the Illinois State Police has made significant progress in some areas. I've completed all the training necessary in order to be a sworn officer, whether it's firearms training, emergency vehicle operations course, ethics training, criminal law, traffic law, first responder. I've completed all that training necessary in order to carry a badge for the state police, and done everything that I think is necessary in order to and work in the best interest of the agency.
There was a question about how your status, the uncertainty of it impedes things. How does it play on your mind as you have to get up every day and go to work every day with this status apparently unchanged?
Yeah, it's a frustrating process to be sure, but it's one that comes with the territory, and that much I understand. It's certainly not the most temporary lifestyle I've lived, having served a couple tours of combat in Iraq. That's much more temporary in many ways. But in all honesty, I still approach it the same way every day as I would be if I was in the full capacity of director. I'm here to do a job. That's what the governor's asked me to do. That's what the agency needs, and that's what the people of Illinois need. So I'll continue to show up every day and do everything that I need to do right by the agency and by the state.
You mentioned you're hoping to bring in 2 cadet classes, but because of these budget cuts, those cadet classes don't look like they're going to manifest itself. Right. How much of a help would that have been? How many people would have been brought in from those classes?
What we were asking for was 2 cadet classes of 50 each, so another 100 officers, which would basically replace the 100 that we expect to attrit through retirements over the course of this year. So all it would really do is help us stay the course. It wouldn't really increase the number of people. It would just maintain the current number of sworn officers in the state police. But right now, if there are any layoffs happening on the sworn side of the house, by contract, we cannot hold any cadet classes to hire any personnel, regardless of who's paying for the cadet classes or where those cadets are going. So for example, the gaming board, those personnel that they would sponsor a cadet class for, we can't hold that cadet class either if any layoffs are impending.
And you mentioned with the cuts as is, you may have to close down, or you would have to close down a district, or you might have to consolidate a number of your districts in your agency. Any idea how many districts would be closed or how many would be consolidated?
I know the number that was put out by the Governor's Office of Management and Budget was 3 districts. That is probably a minimum number that would be required as a result of these cuts. In all likelihood, it would be more, probably in the neighborhood of 5. But it all depends on which districts, because each district obviously has a certain number of troopers associated with it, and we have cuts up to 464 to achieve. So through specialty units alone, that's just not possible. So it would have to be district closures as well.
You mentioned that one of the priorities in choosing which districts would be closed is how much of a local presence these police departments have. Talk a little bit about how much further stress that would place on local police departments, on local law enforcement in the area.
Well, that's the hardest thing about what's happening is right now the Illinois State Police is getting more calls for service than we ever have, because every police agency on all levels of government, whether it's local, town, county, whatever, all of them are laying off officers as well. They're facing budget crunches. They're facing the same thing we are. So we've been getting more calls for service now. So the irony of it is they don't have an increased capacity for that ability, but now it's just a matter of comparing populated areas versus sparsely populated areas. They have larger police forces. They have more capability to take on these responsibilities, but they're certainly not sitting with enough officers to really take on what they would ultimately be asked to do so if we let go our officers.
And you mentioned that in the committee, you mentioned that through layoffs, through possible layoffs, through retirements, through attrition, almost a third of your sworn officers could be gone by next fiscal year.
That's correct. Roughly 29.8% of our entire sworn force would basically be out the door through those 3 functions: layoffs, transfers to the gaming board, and then retirements. So needless to say that the impact is enormous. When you take a 30-year sworn force out, it's to really be able to measure it, I don't even think I could accomplish that for you. It's significant.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. You've got 2025 now.
That's correct.
And the new number could be as low as?
Basically, the new number could be as low as about 1,450 officers.
And you said that hasn't been a level we've seen in any of our lifetimes.
Not in our lifetimes. I mean, the lowest number that we had was really, I believe, in 1990, as far as recent memory is concerned. So about 20 years ago, we had about 1,900 officers. And really, at that point, there are many specialty units that exist now, many functions that we perform now that we did not perform at that time. Statewide Terrorism and Intelligence Center didn't even exist until 2002, and that's a major requirement that we have. Meth response team didn't exist at the time because meth wasn't a drug that was on the streets in 1990. So, and that's 48 officers right there. So there's a significant number of functions that we perform now that we didn't at that time. And we had as many as 2,400 officers as recently as 1995. And now we have more responsibilities and less officers. Even now, without the budget crunch, we're down significantly on the sworn side.
There's always these exaggerative terms thrown out: doomsday budget, doomsday scenario.
Right.
Have we reached that point, though? Have we reached the bottom of the barrel, worst case scenario here?
I mean, from my perspective, I'd have to say this is a doomsday scenario for the Illinois State Police. I mean, quite honestly, to be able to continue to perform the functions that we're required to do for the agency and that we owe to the people of Illinois, we'll still be able to perform them in a certain capacity, but not at the level that's necessary to keep crime down, to keep traffic fatalities down, to keep all these things in check that we've been able to over the course of the last 88 years that we've been in existence.
All right, thanks, sir.
My pleasure.
Good luck.
Thanks.